Dr. Lyra Pallas had always believed in the stories, the legends of Earth, the ancient cradle of humanity. But for most of the galaxy, Earth was nothing more than a myth, a place lost to time. It had been 100,000 years since the planet was destroyed, wiped out by forces unknown. Now, Lyra's life revolved around uncovering what remained of this once great civilization, fragments scattered across distant planets, forgotten pieces of humanity's story. She was an exarchaeologist and linguist, part of a small research team focused on recovering Earth's lost history. But even among the ruins, she knew there was something important, yet hidden something that could change everything. Lyra's work had always been about the small things, the inscriptions on broken stone, the faded data on shattered computers. But what she was dealing with now was something more, a signal. It had been detected in the ancient Sol system, the region where Earth once orbited its sun. The signal was faint, distorted, like the remnants of a long-forgotten voice. The team had initially thought it was just cosmic static background noise. But Lyra had a hunch. She wasn't willing to dismiss it so quickly. There was something about it that felt deliberate. The research station was orbiting a desolate world far from Sol, and Lyra spent hours every day decoding the message. It came from a fragmentary signal, originating from the asteroid belt that had once been the source of Earth's moon. The signal was weak, its data broken and fragmented, but Lyra's persistence paid off. She uncovered a pattern within the chaos, something that shouldn't have been there. Something human. One day, while analyzing a particularly mysterious data shard, something extraordinary happened. Lyra was working alone in her lab, her fingers tracing over the glowing display of her terminal, when she found it. The shard was golden in color, its surface smooth and etched with markings she hadn't seen before. It was unlike any artifact she had encountered, and as soon as she inserted it into the data reader, a chilling discovery unfolded before her eyes. A voice. "RUN." It cried, in a tone that was unmistakably human. Lyra's heart skipped. The voice echoed through the lab, filling the sterile silence with a haunting message. She could barely breathe as the words processed. This was no ordinary discovery. This was a direct message, not just a piece of history, it was a lie. The team was skeptical when Lyra first presented her findings. They had all heard rumors of Earth's legacy, tales passed down from the few remaining civilizations that knew the stories of the planet. But most had dismissed it as myth. After all, humanity had been extinct for over 100,000 years. But this was different. It wasn't just a static message. It was as if the message was waiting for them to find it. "RUN?" The voice repeated. Then there was silence. The team gathered around Lyra, their faces a mixture of confusion and disbelief. There was no way this could be true, they thought. Earth had been gone for so long. How could a voice from that distant past still exist, let alone communicate? The voice was human, that was clear. It carried an emotion that no machine could replicate, a desperation, a warning, a command. But the meaning was beyond their grasp. Lyra felt something stir inside her, a mixture of awe and dread. What did this voice mean? Why had it chosen now to speak? Her mind raced with possibilities. Could this be a remnant of Earth's final moments, some last plea for help sent out across the void? Or was there something else at play here, something more sinister? Was this a warning to anyone who might find it, or a cryptic message from the past with a purpose yet to be revealed? Determined to understand more, Lyra initiated deeper scans of the shard, using all the tools at her disposal. She wasn't just dealing with an artifact. This was something far beyond her wildest expectations. The data shard was pulsing with energy, as if it were alive, responding to their presence. As the team worked together, they realized something even stranger. The shard didn't just store information, it seemed to be aware of them. It was responding to their actions, adapting and changing in real time. Lyra's fingers hovered over the controls, unsure whether she should proceed or not. There was an unsettling feeling growing in her gut, something she couldn't explain. It was as if the voice was guiding her, urging her to uncover its full meaning. The voice, once a simple command, started to reveal more details, though in fragmented bursts. Lyra managed to decipher part of the message. It wasn't just a call to action, it was a warning. But the true nature of the threat remained unclear. What was coming? And why had humanity, in its final moments, left behind such a desperate message? As the days passed, the strange happenings continued. The voice wasn't just a recording. It began to interact with the team, subtly altering the readings, shifting the energy patterns. It was alive. It was watching them, and it seemed to want something from them. Lyra couldn't help but feel a connection to this ancient message. She had dedicated her life to uncovering Earth's history, but this discovery was unlike anything she could have ever imagined. What did the message truly mean? And what was the purpose of the warning? The galaxy was full of mysteries, but this was humanity's last cry, echoing through the stars. And Lyra, with the team at her side, was determined to unravel it, no matter where it led. The question burned in her mind. What happens when the last remnants of humanity decide to speak after all this time? The answer, Lyra feared, might be far more dangerous than anyone could possibly understand. Lyra's research team had spent weeks carefully decoding the strange message. The fragmented data shard was proving to be more than just a relic. It was alive, aware, and somehow connected to the ancient past of Earth in ways they couldn't yet fully comprehend. The ERUN message, cryptic as it was, had become the center of their focus. But as they dug deeper, the situation began to shift. What had started as an intellectual puzzle soon escalated into something far more dangerous. The first sign of trouble came when an unmarked ship appeared in orbit above the research station. It was sleek, almost too perfect, its design smooth and streamlined, unlike any craft the team had ever seen. No transmission had preceded its arrival, and no communication followed. The ship was simply there, hovering silently in the void, its purpose unknown. Lyra had been deep in thought, reviewing the latest data when the warning alarms went off. The team rushed to the control room, only to find a strange message waiting for them on the screen. This artifact belongs to the Theravine. Surrender it immediately. The Theravine. Lyra's blood ran cold. The Theravine were one of the most powerful and enigmatic species in the galaxy. They were as old as the stars themselves, and they preferred to stay hidden, influencing galactic politics from the shadows. To the rest of the galaxy, the Theravine were a myth, ancient, secretive, and untouchable. Before anyone could respond, a voice on the screen shifted. It wasn't just a demand, it was a threat. You are meddling with forces beyond your understanding. Surrender the artifact, or you will regret it. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. What did the Theravine want with the shard? Why would they demand it so urgently? And what did they mean by forces beyond your understanding? The message felt like a warning, but a warning about what? The team scrambled to analyze the ship's signal and identify any patterns, but it was too advanced, too sophisticated. The Theravine had technology that far surpassed anything they could imagine. Lyra's fingers hovered over the controls, hesitant to make any rash decisions. But the choice was clear. They had to decide whether to comply or to push back. Lyra, we can't just hand it over. Jonas, one of her fellow researchers, spoke up with urgency. This is humanity's last piece of the puzzle. We have to know the truth. Lyra felt the weight of his words. Humanity's legacy, their history, was wrapped up in that tiny shard. But she also knew the Theravine weren't to be taken lightly. The galaxy had never seen their full power. No one knew what they were truly capable of. We need to think carefully, Lyra said, her voice steady. The Theravine don't act without reason. There's something they're hiding, something they don't want us to discover. But there was more at stake than just the artifact. The voice on the shard, the one that had so desperately said, "RUN," was now more than just a fragmented warning. It had become a focal point, a thread pulling them into something larger than they could have imagined. The debate within the team grew more intense. While some wanted to comply with the Theravine's demand and avoid conflict, others, like Lyra, felt they were on the edge of uncovering something much darker. The truth of Earth's destruction, and the possibility that the Theravine had played a role in it, was something they couldn't ignore. But what if their pursuit of knowledge endangered them all? It was then that another, unexpected party entered the scene. A rogue faction of the Zorian species had been watching from the shadows. Known for their reputation as space pirates and skilled manipulators, the Zorion were notorious for playing both sides of any conflict. But this faction wasn't interested in a simple exchange of power or wealth. They were interested in the artifact itself. Lyra received an encrypted message from a Zorion representative. "We know what the Theravine are hiding. We can help you uncover the truth behind the artifact, but we need your help. You don't want to trust the Theravine. Help us, and we'll make sure you get the answers you seek." It was a tempting offer, though Lyra knew the Zorion were far from trustworthy. But she also knew that the Theravine's demands were not what they appeared to be. She and her team had already uncovered a disturbing pattern within the artifact's data. The voice had started to do something strange. It wasn't just speaking about Earth's fall. It was predicting future events. The messages were vague at first, like glimpses of a future yet to unfold. "They will come. The stars will fall," the voice whispered in fragmented bursts. And then, just before they lost contact with the shard, it spoke again. "It is happening now. You must choose." What was happening? Who were they? The voice seemed to warn of a catastrophe, but there was no clarity on what it truly meant. As Lyra examined the patterns of the message, she realized that the voice wasn't merely recording events, it was shaping them. It was almost as though humanity, in its final moments, had set something in motion, something that would inevitably lead to disaster. The Theravine's attempts to suppress the truth, and the Zorions' interest in controlling the artifact, only deepened the mystery. The tension within the team grew. Some argued that they should ally with the Zorion, that the enemy of their enemy was their friend. Others feared the Zorions' reputation for betrayal and manipulation. But Lyra couldn't ignore the larger picture. If the Theravine were trying to suppress the truth, there had to be a reason. And if the Zorion had knowledge of what was to come, then maybe they weren't the true enemy, they might be the only ones who could help them navigate the coming storm. The situation was no longer just about unlocking an ancient artifact. It was about choosing sides in a conflict that stretched across time and space. Lyra felt the weight of the decision pressing on her. The past and the future were colliding, and the galaxy's fate seemed to rest on her next move. Her mind raced as the choices before her began to pile up, each one leading down an uncertain path. The Theravine, with their hidden motives. The Zorion, with their own agenda. The cryptic voice from Earth, guiding them or leading them to their doom. As the clock ticked down, and the shadows of their enemies loomed closer, Lyra realized one thing. No matter what choice they made, the galaxy would never be the same again. The question was, would they be ready for what came next? As the days passed, Lyra's obsession with the artifact grew stronger. The voice from the shard had continued to echo through the research station, becoming clearer, more insistent. It wasn't just a warning now, it was a call, a command. "UN," the voice urged, its words growing more desperate, more frantic. It wasn't just humanity that needed to flee. It was everyone. All sentient life. The galaxy itself was in danger. Lyra sat in her lab late one evening, staring at the glowing holograms of ancient data surrounding her. The message had begun to make a horrifying kind of sense. The voice wasn't telling them to run from an external enemy. No, it was telling them to escape from the galaxy itself. The voice, though fragmented, had begun to form a larger picture, something terrifying that threatened all of existence. The more Lyra listened to the message, the more it became apparent. Humanity's fall was not the result of a single war or catastrophe. Earth's destruction had been caused by something much worse, a weapon of unimaginable power. A weapon that had triggered a chain reaction, one that was slowly spreading, consuming the very fabric of the galaxy itself. And it had been activated millennia ago. The voice spoke once more, growing stronger with each transmission. "You must understand. The end began with us. It is a consequence of our creation. The galaxy is dying. Run." Lyra's hands trembled as she processed the data. The voice, it seemed, was not simply a remnant of humanity. It was something far more complex. The survivors, the few who had remained on Earth as it fell, had been trapped in some sort of technological prison, unable to escape or communicate until now. The message they had left behind was not just a cry for help, It was a warning for the galaxy. Her head spun with this revelation. But there was more. There was always more. Amid the data, Lyra uncovered a hidden artifact, one she had never encountered before. It was unlike anything she had seen in her career as an exarchaeologist. The object was a small metallic cylinder, smooth and cold to the touch, with a series of intricate patterns etched along its surface. This was the Erebus key, an ancient device that, when activated, initiated a countdown tied directly to the weapon's catastrophic energy source. Lyra's pulse quickened. This was the key to everything. She inserted it into the station's main interface. The countdown appeared, ticking down before her eyes. Each passing second felt heavier than the last. The voice spoke again, more urgently than before. It has begun. You must stop it. You can stop it. Lyra understood then. The countdown was more than just a warning. It was the final stage of the weapon's activation, the point of no return. She had the power to stop it, to prevent the galaxy's destruction. But doing so would require something else, a choice she could not take lightly. She would need to make a decision that could either save the galaxy or doom it further. The voice's command was clear, RUN. But the key she held in her hands told a different story. It was an invitation, an offer to stop the inevitable. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts, and Jonas, the lead engineer, entered. His face was drawn, his expression tense. "Lyra, we've been intercepted," he said, voice low. "The Theravin are here." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. The Theravin had been lurking in the shadows, but now they were at the station, their power evident. She couldn't waste any time. They were here for the artifact. They were here for the truth. "We have to move," Lyra said, gripping the Erebus key tighter. "There's no time to waste. I need you to help me activate the key." Jonas hesitated. "You don't understand, Lyra. The Theravin have been here before. They were the ones who failed to stop the weapon. They were protectors of Earth, once, but they didn't stop the destruction. They've kept the truth hidden because if anyone finds out the truth about humanity's fall, it will shatter everything they've built. They'll do whatever it takes to stop you from exposing it." Lyra's mind raced. The Theravin had been protectors of Earth? They had known about the weapon's activation, yet they had failed to act? It was too much to process. She could feel the weight of history bearing down on her. "But the galaxy is dying," Lyra said, her voice breaking. "We can't let it happen again. The Theravin are hiding the truth, and I won't let them keep us in the dark." Jonas nodded, understanding the burden she carried. "What will you do, Lyra? If you use the key, if you stop it, there's no going back. You'll change everything." Lyra stared at the countdown clock, its numbers flashing before her eyes. There was no going back. The weapon was ready. The Theravin had covered up Earth's fall for millennia. All of it, their lies, the galaxy's belief that humanity was extinct, had been a carefully crafted illusion. The Theravin had built their empire on that lie, and exposing the truth would shake their control to its core. But Lyra couldn't allow the galaxy to be destroyed. She couldn't let humanity's legacy end in silence. As the countdown ticked closer to zero, she knew the Theravin would try to stop her. They would come for her and the key, and they would stop at nothing to prevent the truth from being revealed. The weight of the decision pressed down on her. The voice from the shard echoed in her mind. "UN?" But the key in her hand, the countdown everything, told her that the galaxy was on the brink. There was no running now. The choice had to be made. She could stop the weapon and save the galaxy, but at what cost? In doing so, she would expose the Theravin's greatest failure, and everything they had built would come crashing down. The empire they had ruled for millennia would unravel, and the galaxy would never be the same. The fate of the universe and the truth about Earth's destruction now rested in her hands. Lyra felt the weight of her decision pressing on her. She knew what she had to do, but could she truly live with the consequences? The end of the galaxy, or its salvation, whichever path she chose, it would reshape everything. And there was no turning back. Lyra's hand hovered over the Erebus key, trembling. She could feel the weight of her decision pressing down on her with every passing second. The countdown clock ticked relentlessly, each second taking them closer to either salvation or total destruction. The key could stop the weapon, end the galaxy's spiral into oblivion, but it also carried the power to expose everything the truth about Earth's fall, the Tharavine's failure, and the very fabric of the universe that had been hidden from everyone for eons. Yet, she was no hero. She wasn't going to try to save the galaxy in the conventional sense. "Do you really believe this will stop the galaxy's end?" Jonas's voice echoed in her mind, still fresh from their last conversation. He had warned her that the Theravine wouldn't hesitate to stop her from using the key, but he had also known that there was something deeper at play. She had thought about it endlessly. She had weighed the consequences. Could she save the galaxy from its slow death at the cost of a painful truth, a truth that would unravel the power structures of the thriving empire and all the other powerful species who had conspired to keep it buried? The more she thought about it, the more she realized this wasn't a fight she was meant to win. Lyra stepped back from the console, feeling a strange calmness settle over her. She made her choice. Instead of using the key to stop the weapon, she pressed a sequence of commands that initiated a complete shutdown. The artifact flared with blinding light as it began to disintegrate. The countdown stopped, frozen in time as the energy from the Erebus key evaporated into nothingness. In that instant, everything shifted. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble. The Theravine, sensing the activation of the key, had already arrived at the research station, their ships ominously orbiting the station. But it was too late for them now. Lyra watched the destruction unfold in slow motion. She felt a sharp pang of grief and relief all at once. The weapon, the countdown, the threat, they were gone, but so was the chance to stop the destruction of the galaxy. By destroying the Erebus key, she had severed any hope of reversing what had begun long before her time. The station shook violently, alarms blaring as the energy field began to break down. Lyra stumbled, steadying herself against the terminal. She looked around at her crew, her team, the last human remnants of Earth. They were silent, understanding what had just happened. The galaxy, with all its life and history, was already lost. In that moment, the voice returned faint at first, barely audible. It was no longer the commanding voice that had urged them to run, but something more distant, almost sad. "The galaxy has already ended," the voice whispered, its tone resigned. "We merely delayed it. What will you do with the time you have left?" Lyra's heart pounded. She had thought she had understood everything, but now the truth seemed far more complicated. The message, once clear in its urgency, was now cryptic and haunting. Had the galaxy always been doomed? Had humanity's actions in their final moments only prolonged the inevitable? Or had they set something else in motion, something even worse? The artifact shattered completely, its glowing shards scattering across the lab. The room was plunged into darkness, only the faint hum of distant machinery left to fill the silence. Then, a new presence made itself known. At first, Lyra couldn't comprehend what was happening. Something was emerging from the shattered remains of the Erebus key. A strange, unseen force moved across the station, gathering energy, coalescing into a shape, a form something that had been hiding for millennia. From the broken pieces of the key, an image emerged, a swirling figure that towered over the team. The figure was indistinct, like a shadow without substance, but the pressure in the air was undeniable. It was a force of presence that had been lurking, waiting for its moment to rise. It was not the weapon that would destroy the galaxy. No, the true source of the destruction lay in this new entity, an ancient race that had been waiting for the end. Hidden, silent, and patient, they had prepared for the galaxy to consume itself, only to rise from the ashes when the time was right. The being did not speak. It did not need to. The presence alone was enough to instill a deep, gnawing fear in Lyra's chest. The truth was even worse than she could have imagined. The galaxy had not been dying because of the weapon, it was dying because this race, this forgotten entity, had been the true architects of its demise all along. They had been the silent watchers, the ones who had allowed the weapon to trigger, knowing it would bring them to inherit whatever remained. Lyra's mind raced. She had stopped the weapon, but not the true destruction. In trying to stop one chain of events, she had unknowingly unleashed another, far worse than what she had expected. The galaxy was still doomed, and now something far darker was on the horizon. As the alien presence coiled through the station, Lyra faced a new, horrifying reality. She had thought she could change the course of history, save humanity's legacy, and stop the inevitable. But all she had done was delay the final curtain call. The galaxy was still dying, and worse, the race waiting in the shadows would soon inherit its remains. Lyra turned away from the image, her heart heavy with the weight of humanity's final legacy. She looked out the window at the stars that had once seemed so full of promise. Now, they were just pinpricks of light in an endless dark void. She was the last human, the last to carry the memory of Earth. But was that memory worth anything? Was humanity's final act a triumph, or just a fleeting gesture in a universe that had long ago decided its fate? As the station's systems began to fail, Lyra asked herself a question that would echo in her mind for the rest of her life. Did humanity, in its final moments, make the right choice? Or was there another way to prevent the inevitable collapse of the universe? The answer, she knew, would never come. It was too late. The galaxy's fate had already been sealed. All that remained was what came after. And that, in the end, was humanity's final legacy, a question that would linger long after their extinction.